can't trade with markets you can't reach, and you can't change the world if you're not an integrated part of it. Highways, railway lines, airline connections, shipping links, and telecommunications systems bring our world together and allow for the flow of goods and services. As Asia grows, as people move from the country to the city, and prosperity increases, the continent's infrastructure needs are exploding. Smart companies and forward-thinking governments understand this, and with regional bilateral agreements or public-private partnerships, they are investing in audacious infrastructure projects. What was unthinkable a decade ago is now commonplace. Asia is being reshaped practically in real time.
The most dense cities in the world are all developing here in Asia. So the whole, how we're going to structure those cities and how they're going to work and be equitable for all people, rich or poor in the city with or without disabilities, and how can people move around and enjoy the city, that's a challenge for every city here in Asia. You cannot necessarily compare it. You can't compare Beijing, which is like a pancake that you can grow bigger and bigger, with Hong Kong, where you got a border, you got a coastline, and you have a very little bit of land left. So every city has its own dynamics.
Korea having this great infrastructure, with these high-speed trains all over the place, with the subway system, with the fast subway from the airport to downtown, and so definitely helps, tourism from the region. So it's very easy for somebody from Shanghai, from Qingdao, or from Tokyo to come here in the morning, have some interesting tourism, have lunch in Seoul with somebody or something, then visit a palace or so, and then at late night go back home. Yeah? So we have a lot of weekend visitors coming to the metropolitan area here because of this very good connectivity. It's very easy for them. The flight is an hour or two, and then the domestic transportation just 1 hour or so to get to wherever you want to go. So it's very easy to spend a short time relaxation or a short time meeting or whatever here on short notice, and very improvised kind of travel is very easy to do here in Korea because of this very good infrastructure. Yeah.
China has got a lot more needs for infrastructure, as do all the big developing economies in Asia. They're probably throwing a lot more money at it. There's discussion about how much of that is efficient, what kind of investments are being made. Are they building the roads to the right places? Are they building the cities in the right locations? Are they building too much rail line? But again, in a country that needs massive infrastructure, that's going through an enormous urbanization movement right now, it's kind of hard to say that when is enough. But I think there's a very sustainable, heavily a quick trajectory growth in infrastructure all over Asia, probably more so out here than anywhere in the world right now. We need it.
We get a situation where you could have a free flow of traffic and people between the mainland and Hong Kong without overburdening Hong Kong. How are we going to manage that? Ideally, you get to a situation of free flow, but we're not there. Now, how do we get there? That's a very big debate for Hong Kong, and that I call it dynamic integration. We can't say we stay two systems. You can't say we're entirely one country. You're going to have to be dynamic about how you integrate as time goes forward. So we got to, and then we got to, as a society, as Hong Kong society, we got to figure that out. And then in the next 5 years, under designing Hong Kong, some of the core issues that we are focusing on is more on the grassroots type of improvements in the city, trying to get a focus back on walkability, trying to get a focus back on the street as public space. This is a city where we don't have benches or seats around our public streets. This is a city where the density is so high that pedestrian walking environments are no longer just at street level, but are also at elevated level and subway levels. The sky trails in Minneapolis were abolished, but in Hong Kong we have them, and they're growing. The subway system, like Path in Toronto, we have them. We have networks of subways that are stretching out on an entire district. But those spaces are very private. There's private control, private management control. We're trying to figure out how to make a city that depends on multi-layered pedestrian networks, how to make those legible, enjoyable, how do you deal with private versus public space. And we feel that that's going to be extremely important, especially with an aging population. Barrier-free access becomes an issue. You can't force people constantly to make detours and elevation changes. So how do we get that working right in the city? That's a big one for us. So the big debate is, are we going to build denser cities that have a smaller footprint, or are we going to have larger cities with a wider footprint to take up the population? And that debate is on. Right now, Hong Kong demonstrates that a very dense city can work really, really well. I mean, it pays for your transport, public transport well. It gives people easy access to all the services that they need. You can keep your footprints low. When cities in Asia make decisions about major infrastructure, they're not as restricted by outspoken public with lots of vested interest in the community or in the pieces of land around them, as in the States or in Europe. I mean, the third runway in London, or trying to get a high-speed rail link between JFK Airport into the city. If you're trying to achieve those things, then there are so many vested interests of people that are so outspoken, that have a political power base, a voter base, that you find it very, very hard to move. In Asia, we're not at that stage yet. Although in a place like Hong Kong that is kind of ahead and closer to the realities of the States and Europe, we'll see this kind of slowdown. Projects take longer here, and there's always this kind of joke between Hong Kong and the mainland that what gets done in 2 days in the mainland takes 20 years here. And then what we do in 2 days probably takes 20 years in the States. So these things are changing as you mature. But for now, especially in China, in an autocratic regime, decisions are being made quickly.
Command economies tend to be able to make decisions faster than pure democracies, where a lot of voices have to come to bear on decision making. But on the other hand, it also produces aberrant behaviors such as inefficient allocation of capital, cronyism, and the types of problems that you see around any emerging economy anywhere in the world. So it's always a challenge between trying to make a business decision whether it's good to have a strong government that can snap its fingers and say we're going to build a bridge, or whether or a chemical factory, or to have a process of government where there's a need to put it out to public discussion and comment and environmental review and a multi-layered public participation process which could stretch on for years, as we have in America, for example. Hard to say that one is better than the other. In some respects, the command economy model tends to work faster, but whether it's better, I think, is to be judged by history.
I think that the issue between the West and East Asia is starting to ask themselves, instead of complaining about them or having protectionist kinds of policies, they're going to have to basically say, how can I copy this? How can I do some of the same things that they're doing? What can I do to spur more creativity, improve the quality of my education system, get my infrastructure improved up to snuff? If China invests 45% of its GDP every year, and here in America we only invest 15%, how can I be competitive under those circumstances? Even the Malaysians, Indonesians, Thais, they're investing 25 to 30, twice as much as I am. Okay. How can I have policies which say I want to be able to put a major system called transport. China decides I want rapid transport linking all my major cities. It'll go ahead and basically get it done. In the United States, we have this huge debate about rapid transport, the cost, who will pay. And of course, the budgets in the United States are very, very stuck. So a very much needed system is very much in limbo.
Infrastructure is the base for a country's development, and it has to keep up with the core industries contributing to the economy. So, for example, if tourism is the key economic factor, the government should focus on the quality standard of transportation, accommodation, and other environmental infrastructure. Otherwise, even with great service and cultural assets, visitors won't be able to enjoy comfortably or having great impressions.